think I met Ty a couple years ago at IBS, or his brother, manning the booth at IBS. But I think this is a really interesting linchpin technology. Tim had a section there on the maintenance, kind of touch-free maintenance side of things, and that was a big piece of the discussion. And this is part of the technology answer, I think, to making maintaining a new home more carefree. I'll let you take it from there, Ty.
Yeah, no, appreciate that, John. As I sat in the back of the room, or stood in the back of the room because I sat on a plane for so long yesterday, I heard a lot of common themes, and a lot of it was around app. A lot of it was around connection. A lot of it was around where do the new buyers want to manage? How do they manage their home? So let's just take a quick poll. Who here gives paper manuals or 3-ring binders to your homeowners with warranty manuals, documents, and that kind of thing to your homeowners today upon closing? Okay? Gotcha. Cool. So basically, that was the thesis of why I founded Done Today a number of years ago and built this patented product. Basically, what we're doing is taking all of those digital home binders, manuals, documents, floor plans, surveys, paint codes, all that kind of thing, putting it into the mobile app so that the homeowner can have that. We were having conversations, and just last week I was talking to a builder. They do about 2,500 homes a year. And I said, what's one of your biggest issues? He said, we get 500 emails a day asking for what's my paint color and what are my appliances. And usually those people are standing at a home improvement place when they need that information. So right here, we aim to do that in 2 clicks. So really, what are we looking for? As a retailer, which all of you are, 90% of the top retailers have a mobile app. In the building industry, very few do. Right now, just read some research yesterday that you will touch your phone over 50 times checking your phone, turning it on, actively looking at it today. You will interface with your phone 2,600 times, clicking buttons, texting, emailing, and over 92% of that time is inside of a mobile app. So if you're offering web portals for some of your designs, things like that, that's a great place to start in the design phase. But how do you transition that home to the ownership mode after the fact? How do you get that homeowner so that when they're standing there at the paint department, they're not calling you and emailing you asking for what your paint codes are? Because that's all non-revenue generating. So really, what do we ultimately do? We want to help you increase sales. We want to give you that advantage when your sales reps are standing there in the model and being able to say, not only do you get one of our beautiful homes, you get all of your information right here at your fingertips wherever you are. You can engage with that homeowner immediately so that when they decide that they want to move forward with you within 24 hours, we can put their selections, the common documents that you would normally give to that homeowner in the binder at closing, right then. You can make them a homeowner before they even have that piece of ground, before their home's even begun being built. Ultimately, that starts building that client satisfaction. For the homeowner, we interface with Amazon. Air filters, water filters, common maintenance, those kinds of things. It can remind you when to do that. And then you click the button, it takes you right out to Amazon, interfaces with it, puts the part numbers in there. You can order it through your Prime and have it sent right to your home. So that's really where that social meets usability to start to build some lifetime value. And I don't want to take too much because that's what we're going to be talking about in another session. But ultimately, if you can profit off delivering a better experience for your client, why wouldn't you look at something new? Why would you say, this is the way we've always done it? Look at apps, look at that next piece. Make that buying experience easier. Like for us, you can start a mortgage application. You could find cheaper insurance. Tim was just talking about how much the insurance should be cheaper for new homes. If that dynamic can begin to be fixed, how can we integrate? And ultimately, that's where we want to build, is bringing all of that together and creating that platform for expansion into mortgage, insurance, selling your home, not resale. I can't use the word resale anymore, right? It's making your used home out so that you can buy another new home, right? So that's ultimately what we do. And we don't want to create any more processes for you. We'll do all the data entry. We'll interface with all of your applications. We'll take all of that. We'll deliver it right to the homeowner without you having to create another process or create more work for you. So that's ultimately what Done Today is going to do. If you're interested and you want to have additional conversations, everybody knows QR codes now from menus that you probably used when you came here. Scan it. Should open up an email in your app. Send me an email. Send us an email. We'll set up a demo. What we're offering is we will do one home of yours, free of charge. We'll put it on there. We'll put it on your phone so that you can experience that next experience for how you want to deliver your homes to your clients. So.
Thank you, Ty.
Yeah, thank you.
What we wanted to explore today is financial services companies have always been strong partners of builders. The question is, are there some different types of collaboration with financial services companies, mortgage companies, et cetera, and other folks who work on the transaction side of things that can enhance some of the expanded revenue opportunities that we're talking about with transformation. So our presenters today, our panelists, are Steve Ryder down at the end of the table, who's with Builder Trade-In and Keller Williams, and he's a serial entrepreneur. There's a lot of stuff going on with Steve, and we're going to hear a lot about it, but we really want to home in a little bit on that Builder Trade-In program. Travis Rulli.
That's right, Rulli.
Travis is the Chief Operating Officer, and I think when we started our conversation 8 months ago, you were Chief Strategy Officer with FBC Mortgage, which is one of the top, if not the top, private label lender working with home builders. And then we've got Jeff Trapp, who's Chief Operating Officer, or he's an Executive Vice President, probably a Chief Operating Officer too, with ILG, the Interior Logic Group. So our flow today for the session, we've heard from Ty. Joan and Travis are going to start a conversation about a more seamless integration of the mortgage application process and online transactions if and when we get there comprehensively for builders and some other relevant JVs. And then I'll have a conversation with Jeff and Travis, and I really want to focus on and maybe push them a little bit on how financing can be married with expanded option selections pre-sale, and then on the post-sale side of things too. And then we'll hear from Steve about Builder Trade-In and other factors, and then we'll be ready for lunch. Probably a little late, but somebody will tell me how late and what the adjustments are to the schedule. We usually keep the trains running on time, but this has been a year of curveballs, so we're not running quite on time. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, John.
Great, thank you. And full disclosure, the New Home Company utilizes FBC as a preferred lender for our team here in Arizona. Make some people happy. But I'd first like to just ask out of the audience, does anybody utilize an in-house lending relationship, like a JV with a bank or anybody else? Okay, so a couple. So that means the remaining builders that we have in the audience are utilizing preferred lenders, outside lending relationships, which will make hopefully this conversation more relevant. So Travis, and this is not a staged question because I have been out of my CMO role for now 11 months, and my golf game has not gotten under 100. So this isn't a staged question. What are FBC's ideas on how to better integrate how do we get Rocket Mortgage integrated into our builder sales?
That's a great question. I'm glad you're at least at 100. I'm still working on that on my golf game. But the Rocket Mortgage, or that point of sale experience, has been the obsession of our industry for the last 10 years. And we're starting to see, due to competition, compression and margins, now it's the back office execution where the focus is. And so we offer a Rocket Mortgage-esque experience, which is really that pre-approval process up front, data extraction and pre-approval, but we're also taking it a step further and are implementing AI and OCR to give a verified approval automatically 24 hours a day at 1 a.m. on the day one of saying hello to the customer.
So pre-approval, not a pre-qual, hello,
There's a difference.
there's a difference. difference.
There's a
I
difference.
want my buyers to be, I want the file with an underwriter within, I say, a week.
Yeah.
You're saying it's happening in 24 hours.
Almost instantaneously. And so we'll get to that in a second. So I don't mean to keep using the hockey analogy, but I think it's so important because as the industry has just recently exited out of just an incredible rush of volume due to the rates, we found underwriters making $200,000 a year, everyone fighting over the same talent. Now it's time to really look at some automation. And you can procure automation, but implementing automation intelligently in your operations is a whole nother thing. So if a lender was to put an army of underwriters at day one of the application process, it would cost them a fortune. And I know this from some of the names, I won't name them, some of the largest names in this business are still using humans to make that decision, but it's not day one, it's day 2 or day 3. It's still very much a huge data process, and it's a light verification of that data against guidelines. What we're doing, using AI, OCR, and advanced databases, is we're allowing the customer to, this is what we're working towards right now, eventually self-serve by, I want to apply, I upload my documents, I click submit, and then that, within an hour or two, having a application that can fully underwrite the documents and the data, compare it to guidelines, and give a verified approval within that hour or two. So you think about that scenario, that's game changer. That's a game changer because the expense is too high for a lender to put all that operating manpower or person power up front. And so you have to have.
So how are you guys, how can you do it?
We mean how?
Well, why you versus, a Chase, guy that's...
Well, so I mean, the technology is out there. I think one of the things that plagues our business, as it does builders everywhere in the entire housing, which we mentioned here in previous slides, is behavior. We still have a classic behavior of a human's got to touch the file, a human's got to look at the documents, the data, and analyze it. And you see that in this new technology. It's rage against the machine, if you will, to where humans feel like they're going to be replaced. And so you can implement the technology. Curving behavior is a whole nother conversation. But that said, the human power still is needed for exception management. They become the exception management, and the technology becomes the norm. And so the technology's out there. It's adoption of that technology. So we're early adopters of it.
You're using optical character recognition and that sort of stuff for these uploaded documents and processing it really quickly with AI. And
that's right. So the OCR extracts the data from the documents. The AI is actually doing the thinking. And comparing it to the guidelines and issuing approval just as a human would.
Cool.
So we're speaking to a room primarily of folks that utilize preferred lender relationships. Do you have a take on, do you prefer that model versus an in-house JV?
Yeah, I think we prefer them all, of course.
You're in the mortgage. You want it all.
Yeah, and we do them all. But I think the joint venture gives you a little bit, there's obviously the broker and the banker model where we're working with the builder to create its own independent mortgage company, the shared profit and loss. Especially in today's, we see the resurrection, I guess, if you will, the CFPB, which is something as a lender and everyone in the process should be interested in. And
what was that acronym? That
CFPB.
So
Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. A little scary. They have quite the reach.
Yeah.
But we like the JV model because it's joint ownership. We will set up the mortgage company with the builder. The builder wants the control, and as you can see here in the slide, as we get into that JV model, it gives us the opportunity. We focused on the point of sale for years. Now it's time to it's time to integrate the entire experience from the joint venture or us as a lender with the builder's operating system and even point of sale system to keep not only the builder involved but also the customer and making that communication seamless.
So the builder themselves are sharing the risk, and they're in a position to potentially take more risk alongside you guys on that.
Yeah, there's definitely, in any endeavor, there's a little bit of risk, but that's where we specialize, right? We understand the joint venture builder space. We know how to initiate a mortgage company at many different sizes, small to large, with scale, and help that builder build that mortgage business quickly.
And you take a unique, I think, approach versus Loan Depot. Tell us about what model works when you set up in-house.
Yeah,
First broker versus bank.
Yeah, so I think we definitely focus versus, to your point, there's a broker correspondent model, which we do as well, but the joint venture, to your point, is truly an independent mortgage company that we partner with the builder. Obviously, because agency approvals, we own a slightly higher degree of the actual mortgage company itself for those approvals, having a certain amount of control, but it gives the builder a little bit more control of the mortgage experience, the whole process. But working with us has the experience to run many mortgage companies.
Okay.
So Travis, you have previous background in fintech or that vicinity, and your strategy officer role, you were doing a lot of visioning on that front. And we've talked about whether, we're looking at digital marketing and sales and transaction processing online. So do you have a vision for how we can make that online experience of exploring the home and then moving to at some level of transaction or commitment, integrating the financial piece with that?
Prior to a transaction.
Yeah. I mean, how do we make that more seamless and less going into different realms? I mean, you always want to keep people driving to your end purpose, and if we take them all over the place, we get lost. They get lost along the way, right?
More than a mortgage calculator that's sitting on somebody's website.
Yeah. Right. And one of the things that makes us unique, we have an incredible development team, so we're very nimble to meet the builder's needs with whatever stack they have as far as application or website. But yeah, I do think it starts at point of sale. We saw an incredible presentation just a moment ago. I will integrate many things for the builder.
Yeah.
We're nimble. We can work with that type of application.
Yeah.
I see a future vision of us, skating to the puck reference. We can close a loan in 7 to 8 days, with the trade cool-off periods. I mean, as things get more automated, we're really waiting on the digital title process with a lot of the property inspection waivers out there. So I do believe in the
And you work in
future.
California. You've heard of the state California.
Yeah, heard of that state. Yeah.
So
Little regulatory.
Some of it's about consumer facing, and some of it's about these information flows back to the builder, and you guys are prepared to engineer that stuff and kind of co-develop it, right?
That's right.
You don't have a lot of takers on that idea right now.
We have some, and it depends on. We're working with a few builders now. Depending on their needs. Everybody's so busy and working through the constraints that they have. I think we're entering a new phase where it's really time to sharpen the pencil and really make sure that those integration points are very tight. I use the iPhone analogy. Everybody's got a smartphone. It changes your life, but actually the unboxing experience is perfect, and every edge of that box is perfectly designed and fits together. And I think we, as an industry, lender to builder, need to think about those touch points throughout the process. We spend, and I'm sure of those out there who have a joint venture or even a preferred lender, countless hours weekly on backlog calls, looking for here's the status of the build versus here's the status of the loan, where we can make that experience seamless. And rather than spending hours talking about 1, 2, 3, unit 1, 2, 3, unit 5, 6, 7, we talk about the 1 to 2 exceptions, and they're informed, we're informed instantaneously as the loan moves through the life cycle of the process, as well as the build. Goes through the build.
So your technology is what you believe is your edge.
Yes, and I think understanding a forward vision of the mortgage space and how we can help builders get that day one approval to where the builder understands they have a qualified individual, and then having the processes to communicate throughout the build process, and then building or getting that final approval instantaneously. We also have some unique products that make us unique as well too, but technology is a big part.
Yeah. Cool. All right, let's keep moving. So I think we are past that slide. Jeff, I want to move us from the initial mortgage realm into financing options purchases. making more dollars available in some way than may have been allocated in the initial, with the initial mortgage, and then even on the post-sale side of things. So can just for a baseline, can you walk us through traditional approaches on financing the option side of things? You guys sell more options than anybody on the planet, I think, right?
Yeah,
in partnership with your builders.
Yeah, Interior Logic Group, we operate over 100 design studios with our builder clients across the country. And what we're seeing is the last 18 months has been a perplexing time for all of us. I mean, the buyers still have the money to spend. They're not running up against their mortgage caps, and there's still dollars out there that they can spend. We find that there's a little bit of hesitation as the home prices have gone up. The buyers may be a little bit more conservative for what they're looking for. I think the thing for us is the buyers are, as supply chain has happened, we've taken product offering away from them because we want to be a little bit more certain that we can get the house to construction, so we're giving them less. And also with the cycle time, hey, let's get them in and through, give them as much technology we all have available. So you're having this buyer that has this longing for more post-closing here. So it becomes the fundamental question of how do we all service this with financing opportunities here. And I think for us, it's being creative as an industry besides just cash and credit, because everybody wants to keep the mortgage preserved, not affect the mortgage, and the ability to, how do we provide more options that are installed post-closing, because we all know we got enough to worry about with just getting what's in the house done at the closing, and then opening up some new financing vehicles that can provide what they're looking for now, because there's tremendous amount of dollars. I mean, for those of us, I mean, with young kids like myself, the amount of anxiety about will the Christmas presents show up when Santa's coming, with supply chain issues there. So I think we're all personally experiencing it, and I believe that the buyers trust the builders to be able to get the products to them. So do I go to Home Depot after closing, or can I trust my builder to provide more to me even if it's at a separate transaction post-closing? So I think those are some of the unmet needs we've really got to focus on as an industry.
Well, what about pre-occupancy? I mean, do we have disconnects where somebody thought they financed the right amount on the house, but as they're exploring the options, they want to do more, but maybe they put excess money in the down payment that could be, how do we make money available to them as they discover that they want to personalize and make a bigger investment, even pre-occupancy?
I think from what we're seeing, I defer to you a little bit here, is we're not seeing the buyers bump up against their caps right now. There's still dollars to be spent if they're mentally willing to do it. That's what we're finding. Other than the FHA first-time home buyer, there really is dollars to be available on the table to be explored.
How easy is it for them to know where they are versus their caps? I mean, is that transparent within the shopping process, or is that a Byzantine journey to figure it out?
Yeah, I think for most builders and ourselves, I mean, there's open clarity on what the availability of spend there is for the buyer when they come into the design studio or whatever the selection process may be. So I think it's pretty wide open in what's out there dollar-wise.
Right. I mean, it does rely a bit on the buyer being savvy enough to understand, are they really at their loan limit or not? Because sometimes the lender will say, you've got X, and the buyer knows, actually, I've got XYZ money sitting aside, I could spend more. I want to be proven to. I mean, there's some with buyer understanding of really what they can afford to do. And then the lender weighing in, and then the salesperson inserting themselves into it all, going, oh, I don't want them at the limit. We want to make sure this thing closes. So you've got a few interested parties at the conversation.
Right. And how does a financial services company like FBC play in that and take friction out? And
yeah, I think both points are right on the money. The consumer comes up and say, hey, we're looking at buying this house for $500,000. Where I think the traditional underwriting thought process is, I'll pre-approve John at $500,000, but maybe not calculate the total max amount John can afford, and then making sure that communication and education back to John, say, hey, John, you're approved for $500. But 550, obviously, it would depend on the appraisal, all those, all the fine print. Right. But knowing that John can go to 550, but he's buying a house for 500 is where we would, in the beginning, educate John on that limit. and as well.
And how is that integrated with your buying platforms, your digital buying platforms, your in-person design centers? I mean, how do we make sure that information is at hand when somebody wants something?
Yeah, I think it's a close collaboration with a sales consultant for the builder and then the design studio and understanding exactly what is there. You might have some of the different agendas there of, hey, here's the limit, but let's be cautious about it. Let's not try to tip it over. But it's that collaboration from the time the contract is written to the time the buyer walks in for the first design studio appointment. I think we're pretty good as an industry about that communication, but I think at some point when mortgage rates begin to rise, I think the anxiety there will start tipping a little bit more so.
And I think it's an identification point to Tim's notion of knocking out friction. This for sure, as technology gets better, we'll have a line right there that the buyer can see, oh, I'm getting closer, I'm getting closer. Oh, I've got another 10% I could spend. I mean, that's a friction point.
Yeah, and with digital,
because right now it's communication between sales, design, and the lender.
And with our digital technology platform, the buyer's watching live time as they're shopping online and in the design studio of how much they've spent and knowing what that is compared to their mortgage limit.
And what about the post-close stuff? I mean, I know you're a mortgage company, but if you're developing interfaces for builders that are mortgage specific, could these interfaces also be used to represent other financial products that maybe FBC doesn't offer that help people finance a purchase 6 months, 12 months, 18 months after?
Yeah, I think from an interface, we're a little behind on that. I think that's definitely a future vision, but we're still in the traditional mortgage post-close space where cash out, LTV going back.
Yep.
Do you want something like that? Do you want an interface that goes from pre-close to aftermarket opportunities?
We see a couple builders who are innovators starting to lead the way of that home buyer for life. And I think right now with margins, sales, the way they've been the last couple years, nobody's had a focus on it. But as things inevitably will slow down, margin constraints happen, I think that's where the door will open there again, where folks will want to pursue it a little bit more ardently. I mean, we've all got our hands full in this massive backlog that's coming through the chain right now.
Yeah, the problem is when we react to stuff like this, then by the time we're ready to implement it, the market conditions have changed and we give up on that. We saw it as a necessary evil instead of something that was systematic that we wanted to go after. Steve, you look like you want to say something.
Oh, I've been in this conversation for years. I'm the realtor at the table. So the realtor does all the consultations with the buyers. And so they know up front what needs to happen and what might go in afterwards and how are they going to finance the pool. We're the ones that actually go through those conversations with the buyers because it's not necessarily done right there at the sales office. So I really appreciate all the comments because when you show our video, we've kind of gone that direction because COVID forced us to. We were in a physical world that was digitally enhanced.
Yep.
We're now in a digital world that's physically enhanced. So just like Amazon bought Whole Foods, we still like to go touch it, feel it, see it. But there is a group that can do it online, which will expedite the decisions, expedite the conversations on do I get the chef's kitchen or do I get the spa shower? And tonight when we go to Shea Homes, you'll see a lot of that integration. Tomorrow night when we go to Fulton, you'll see even more integration. So how do these things all come together? I think it's visualization and it starts in the very beginning. And so if we're ready to watch our video, that'll open up a lot of conversation.
Well, let's see. Do we want to beat up the option sales pre or post close anymore, or do we want to move on? What do you want to beat it up, huh?
No,
what are you frustrated about?
Well, because as a builder, we attempted to really embrace the buyer for life, and lawyers would just continuously get in our way, and we wanted to be in the house. Personally, I have a home that has a customer feature that I can pay a lot of money for all the service I want on a yearly basis. I am so happy. And here I have access to trades. I could do it all myself, but do I do that? No, because of lifestyle decisions. I'm happy to pay that to have people service.
Yep.
That is brilliant, and this is a builder, an independent custom builder that provides the service, and he has like 500, 600 active buyers in his program, and it's going to be ramped up over the next few years. But lawyers typically did not want us builders back in that closed house. Yeah. They thought it would open up litigation, it would open up, we'd be killing our trades, we couldn't get the trades back in to even do. So, I mean, those are the kinds of things that come at you. And then you kind of go, do I really want to fight that fight when I've got my plate full?
Yeah. Well, the next session we'll dive deeper on that, but let that sink in.
I don't have an opinion on that.
No, you don't. We'll let that sink in, but we'll address that after lunch. Talk more about the trade-in now. What I like about the trade-in is it's, again, taking some of the friction out of somebody being able to make that purchase. And I also like trade-in conceptually because it sounds like I'm trading in a used car.
Yep.
So if somebody's trading in a used house for a new home, I think that's the right context and the right marketing spin we want on it. But
yeah, and everybody knows when they trade in a car, if they do it at the dealership, they're probably going to take a little bit of a hit, but it'll be super easy. If they want to put it in the front yard and detail it and do all that, they'll get top of the market. And so that's where education comes in. When the homeowner wants to sell a home and buy a new home, there's a big gap now. It used to be 4 months. When I started 42 years ago, we only had to wait 30 days and the new home would be done in 90. Those days are gone. So with an 8 to 12 month build time, you have to do a lot of hand holding, and their decision may change. The market has changed right now. Zillow's dead, right? They're the biggest company in the iBuyer space, and they have 3/4 of their revenue coming from a different revenue source, and they still are dead. So when the market changes, like Tim says, in a year to a year and a half, and we need the 84% of the realtors back to help us sell our houses, and the co-brokes and all that, and the true education process is going to start all over again.
Yeah.
Right now, the education process is you say, hey, you got $150,000 in equity. They're like, whoa, that's more money I've ever had in my life. Take 50, right?
And is that why Keller Williams invested in I'm assuming it was Keller Williams that invested in the software, your website?
This is my personal.
That's your personal.
Yeah, this is all of my personal people that I work with, the trades that I work with, the industry specialists that I work with. We had a lot of this technology 7 years ago. Builders didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to see it. They're like, why do I need to do this online? They come into my office.
Yeah.
So it just expedites. The kitchen widget is eye candy. We have a new thing called Build and Play. Fulton Homes has 23 steps to build a home. We can do that in less than 5 minutes.
Steve, I think like I said, it takes a friction point out, and especially if we've got elongated delivery cycles.
Yep.
And I think it's one of those objections that doesn't get voiced. It's like, oh my God, what am I going to do about selling my existing home, and where am I going to live? And if you're making those issues disappear or easier to deal with, that's part of us getting more buyers, right? That's part of us getting more people out of used homes and into new homes.
Well, and it's also repeat and referral business. Unlike resale, new homes have the opportunity to bring in all their friends, family, co-workers. They're open 7 days a week, 8 hours a day. And a typical new home salesperson, you see your buyer come in, you're like, oh, hi, Judy. I'm just with my best friend. Okay. The best friend might want to buy a new home. So there's lots of repeat and referral business in that new home arena that if we work together and do it strategically and in partnership with education, Katie barred the door.
Very good. Listen, I think we're about 10 minutes over time. We caught up a little bit with this session, but let's thank all of our panelists here. I think you guys did a great job. Let's thank our sponsor, Done Today. We'll hear more from Ty in the session after lunch, and I think our team will communicate on whether there's any change in timing on when we restart in the foyer where lunch will be served. Thanks, everyone.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.